On today's episode, we get to talk about the three Carolina Hurricanes players who I think should step up for the team this year. It could be from just having a bounce back from a down season, hopefully trying to stay healthy, and then getting back to the level we think they can be. All of that and much more on a Thursday edition of Locked On Hurricanes.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Thursday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers. I'm also going to start a column here very shortly on the Chicago Wolves called Wolves Weekly. I'm on also the co-host of the Surge Castles, a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a fun show for you guys today. As I said, we're going to look at three Carolina Hurricanes players who I think should step up for the team this year, especially with all the departures on the roster, and they're going to be leaned on, I think, a lot more coming up at 24-25. We're going to talk about Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Martin Necas, and Andrei Svechnikov in different ways of how they should be able to step up for the Hurricanes, hopefully this upcoming season. But before we jump into all that, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONAHL for $20 off your first purchase. Now, like I said, we're going to talk about, Kotkaniemi, Necas, and Svechnikov and how each of them can bring their own way of stepping up for the Hurricanes this year. And we're started off by Jesperi Kotkaniemi, who we talked about on Wednesday's show, how, he really didn't put points on the board, but overall of how he played, he won 72.7% of his faceoffs. And even at one point, I even talked about it with some people on social media about it, and the fact that he at one point was able to he was turning his stick around and doing it right-handed, where he's usually a lefty. He was able to move flip his stick around, do it on the right side, and actually won some faceoffs in that regard. So you kind of like to see, for the fact of the creativity that Jesperi had, where it's like, the Hurricanes have been talking about how they really need a right shot center. And while he doesn't shoot right, he's at least giving you the dynamic of someone that they could use on the right side for faceoffs if they really need it. So got to give him a lot of props for doing that in a preseason game. And Rod and his staff probably saw that too, because you don't really see a lefty do that very much, where they can turn their stick around and do it from the right side. So, and be able to win as much as he did. So you're talking about a guy who almost won 73% of his faceoffs and was able to be creative with it. It does speak a lot to, Jesperi and how he really wants to step up his game, because we know when you go back to his exit interview that he didn't like how his season was last year. He even dropped some colorful language of, it was pretty crap. And that's, putting it mildly, for the fact of just that he knew that his season wasn't good last year, where you're looking at, 12 goals and 27 points in 79 games. He saw his minutes drop from 1244 or 1444 to 1259. That's something you really want to see. He goes from 3. He had one power play goal, where last year he had 3, and then he had 0 game-winning goals compared to the 2 they had the 2 seasons before. And you're talking the 22-23 season, 18 goals, 43 points in 82 games. So it's one of those things where when you're paying someone that he's at right now at $4.82 million, he's going to the third year of his 8-year contract that he signed with the Kings back in March of 2022 for 8 years at $38.56 million for the whole contract, but the cap hit of 4.82, which will put him at the age of 29 when the contract expires in 2030. So it's a year where if you get Jesperi back to where he's giving you, I would say 43 points again would be great. I would really want to see him get 45 or 50 points. I know we talked about a few weeks ago, we had our 5 Hurricanes players to watch. I know these guys were kind of part of that, but I think this is more of like this is a bona fide, these guys have to step up. These guys have to be the, guys that the Hurricanes are going to have to lean on, especially with Steph Nason now gone, from the bottom 6. Teuvo Teravainen's gone from the top 6. penalty, certain power play guys like Nason's gone. You lose Tara Vinen, who played on the power play and the penalty kill. So you're trying to make up a lot of goals that were lost. And for Jesperi, yes, he's not someone who's going to put up 30, 40 goals a year, but if he gives you 50 to 20 goals and gets you about 45 to 50 points, you'll take that, especially for a guy who, we talked to Walt Ruff a while back, that you would love to have a guy who's able to produce at that rate for 4.8, which, it's a little high, but it's a lot better than some of the contracts you do see around the NHL for guys of what Jesperi's play style can be. And it's just the unfortunate part of where he was drafted. You're taking third overall by the Montreal Canadiens in the same draft with Andrei Svechnikov. You get all these expectations. You don't really get developed really well. Everyone thinks you're not really that much of a player. And they put out high expectations on a guy who's a third overall pick. There's nothing that Jesperi can do about that. So it's just you have to almost have to look away from where he was drafted at and just look at what he can do in terms of his play style. Now, me and I know a lot of other people who've, written or spoken about Jesperi on certain different platforms and stuff like that said that he could be a Jordan Staal 2.0, where it's he might not put up the points like what Jordan Staal does, but if he gives you that defensive anchor that the team needs, where, maybe Jesperi isn't a 2C, but more of that third line center, where, Jordan Staal's contract eventually comes up in the next few years. You still got Jesperi Kotkaniemi, who could slide down to your third line center spot, and you bring in someone else for the second line and, man that position in the middle. But I still think Kotkaniemi has the assets and the ability to become that Jordan Staal 2.0, because he's like 81 or 82 days away from he just turned 24. So he's still a really young player. Like, he hasn't even hit his prime yet. And that's the thing I think that a lot of people keep forgetting is that, yes, he's already been in the league for a few seasons since he was 18. I mean, that is a very long time for the fact that you started back in the 2018-19 season, 18 years old, 79 games, and then 36, 56, and 66, of course, you're talking with all the COVID years. Then the last 2 years, he played 82 in 79 games. And like I said, 2 years ago was his best year with 43 points. So he's still, trying to figure out his game, where it's like, he kind of went to Montreal, didn't get developed, didn't get COVID, so you're having to figure all that out. And then he comes to the Canes, has a great year after getting the contract extension, then just has a down year last year where there's a lot of shuffling up and down the lineup, having different line mates and stuff like that. So it's just it's a tough spot to be in for when you're Kotkaniemi, for the fact that you've been in the league since 2018, 19, 18 years old. You're coming basically into your 7th season already, and you're just 24. And he's not even hit his prime yet. So, and we all know, like, when you're looking at certain players, maybe some guys can play really good early on, and there's some guys who are late bloomers. And I think Kotkaniemi just got put into a spot where draft a lot higher than he needed to be. Montreal put him in a really bad spot, and he's still trying to figure out his game. But I think you saw it last year. If you look at how he could have gotten a lot of, there was like tertiary assists, third assist type things, he would have a lot of points. If pucks went 6 inches another way to be in the net, he just, he basically hit everything on the goal besides the net itself. He basically just hit everything that was iron. But the thing is too, like, you saw the big hits he threw. He used his body a lot last year, especially in the playoffs too against the Islanders. He threw some massive hits on Kyle Clutterbuck and a few other guys on the New York Islanders. So for me, it's one of those things where, I'm not expecting for him to light the world on fire with 30 goals, but if he can give us 15 to 20 goals, give us 45 to 50 points, I'm okay with that. I would be ecstatic if that was his goal total. And if he keeps his faceoff percentage, like his best year was last year at 51.5%. If he can manage to get himself above 55% on the faceoffs, even closer to 60, then there you go. I'll also take that as well, because we definitely need someone other than Jordan Staal and Sebastian Aho to win faceoffs. And if Jesperi can keep, whatever he's working on this offseason, we saw that in the first game against Tampa, where he almost won 73%, going lefty and righty. If he's able to keep that up and get it in the upper 50s, low 60s on faceoff percentage, I would love that. I would love for him to see that happen. And like I said, just give me 45 or 50 points and 20 goals. That's not a huge ask. And I think he could definitely do that. He's coming into the season where you got Martin Necas back for 2 more years. hopefully they kind of figure it out. You might have Jack Roslovic on your left wing. So it's one of those possibilities where in terms of Jesperi, I think he can make a step back. I think he can be the player that we all think he can, because a lot of guys are high on him. Mike Maniscalco, Walt Roffey here from Eric Tulsky as well. There is even Trip Tracy too. Even like when if you listen to Kane's cast with Mike and Shane, Shane Willis talked to Trip Tracy, and Trip said that in practice, Kotkaniemi's got to jump right now, and he looks like he's fired up and ready to go. So if you have a lot of people within the organization that are saying that he's someone they're keeping an eye on for a bounce back, I would more than likely keep an eye on Jesperi Kotkaniemi for a huge 24-25 season. So when I say he needs to step up, it's just a bounce back from a down year. We know he can put the points up because we saw it 2 seasons ago. Almost got 20 goals, had almost 45 points. If we can get back to that area where he's almost putting up 20 goals and maybe getting us 45 to 50, then there you go. You'll take that for $4.82 million. So the next guy to talk about is the guy who just signed a new contract with the Carolina Hurricanes to get an extension, and who will be on that same line with Jesperi Kotkaniemi in Martin Necas. So stick around as we'll talk about that here in a second on a Thursday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. All right, guys, we got to talk about Gametime. And Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live event even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. The one thing I like about the fact is their Gametime Picks are such a great option to figure out where you need to find your tickets in a faster way. Also, their all-in pricing is a feature that I like, so that way you're not really getting surprised by fees at checkout. And the one other feature that I really, really enjoy is their Seat Viewfinder. But now, going back to the Gametime Picks real quick, you can curate it to make it easier to save more on sports, along with concerts, comedy theaters, and so much more. So it's not just about sports, guys. You can pretty much save money on tickets for almost anything. And for all their in pricing, well, this is a feature where you can get your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. But you got to make sure that you got to toggle the feature to get that all-in pricing, so you can have it while you use the app itself. So make sure to click on all-in pricing so you can get that toggled feature for your surprise, that way you're not getting surprised at checkout for your fees. And their Seat Viewfinder, this is a game changer for me. You get a panoramic view of your seat on the app before you buy, so you don't even have to worry about obstructive views or weird angles and stuff like that. You'll know what you're looking at when you get to your seats before you even get to the event itself, so you don't got to worry about if something being in your way. And that's something I really enjoy, is the fact that I already know what I'm getting in terms of what my view is going to be before I even buy the tickets itself. So I would say that's a feature that's really a much of a game changer, because essentially you're taking the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONAHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONAHL. That's LOCKEDONNHL. Once again, it's LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Well, it's Gametime. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with big returns on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with a $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Where can you do that? Well, you can do that at FanDuel.com. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. Now, the other guy we get to talk about is someone who I mentioned during the first segment, Jesperi Kotkaniemi. Is now we get to talk about Martin Necas, who's on the same line as KK. Now, this is a case where Martin Necas really needs to step up and show that he's very much deserving of the contract that he got with the Carolina Hurricanes over the summer, where now you go from $3 million a year to $6.5 million per for the next 2 seasons. And that will take him through the 2025-26 season, where he'll become an unrestricted free agent at the age of 27, because this deal is a 2-year, $13 million deal. Last season for the Carolina Hurricanes, he actually finished the season with 24 goals, 53 points in 77 games. Still got 8 power play goals, did get 3 game winners, and a lot of electric games in overtime. It played 17 minutes and 21 seconds last year. compared to 2 seasons ago where he played 18 minutes and 25 seconds. Now, we've talked about him all summer. I know you guys are, ready for that saga. We're all happy for that saga of is he staying, is he going to be done? And I talked about it for the fact that you're looking at a guy who I can see why he was upset for losing over a minute in average ice time. Wasn't really used a lot on the PK like he was before. Was on the power play 2 unit and stuff like that. So you can kind of see where the frustration was for, Martin Necas, of where you saw him drop in his productivity and just time on ice and not being what he wants. And he even said it over the summer that he had a conversation with Rod. They know what he knows that he has to earn that trust from Rod. And even Rod even said too during training camp over the last few days is that there's no really roles on the Carolina Hurricanes. It's more of, we got to depend on you. And like Rod even said it as well, the fact that you had a lot of guys who left the roster, and now they're going to be looking at Andre, Martin Necas, Aho, Jarvis, even probably KK too. They're going to have to lean on those guys a lot more now because they're going to be the quintessential top, 5 of your top 6 guys, and they're going to be rolling with them a lot. So for Martin Necas, that's the one thing. It's like the Hurricanes really need to see that guy who led the team in scoring 2 seasons ago, where he had 28 goals, 43 assists for 71 points in 82 games. Like I said, someone who shot the lights out, 240 shots, had 11.7 shooting percentage. It's one of those things where, he was hurt last year. He did miss a few games. Like I said, he only played in 77 because he got hurt in practice. But even then, had a really slow start to start the year, kind of picked up as the season went along. But you can't have a season like that where you lose 4 goals and you significantly drop in assists. You go from 43 to 29. And even then, you almost dropped 20 full points. You dropped 18 points in one season. You really can't have a season like that, especially when you're getting paid $3 million at the time, and then now you're going to $6.5 million per season. Like for Kotkaniemi, he's just trying to have a bounce back from a down year. For Martin Necas, it's okay. Your step up is to be someone that we can really lean on because you want to play top line minutes, you want to play power play, you also want to play penalty kill. Well, as we've seen in camp so far, he's on that power play 1 group. Well, what more does he want? Well, Rod said that maybe he's looking for a penalty kill spot, which he did pretty well when I was talking to Corey Lavalette of the Athletic and the North State Journal, where it's he wants to be back in the penalty kill as well. He wants to be used in all situations. Well, you're going to have to earn it because it's one of those things where there's no roles. It's just if you can be someone that the Hurricanes can lean on, then they'll lean on you. And that's the thing with Martin Necas is now put your money where your mouth is. You got your $6.5 million per season. You got another 2-year deal. Can you prove it to where, if it works out, then if you want to stay in Carolina and we can get an extension done next summer with 1 year left on your contract, then that's great. Then you're stuck here for maybe longer, maybe your entire career, just like a Jacob Slavin. Hopefully a, Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis and stuff like that. But it's a situation where you got to hope that you're getting a Martin Necas that you saw 2 years ago where he almost had 30 goals, almost had 45 assists. Like I said, he had 71 points. If you can get back to the point where you're scoring let's say 30 goals and you're getting, let's say 70 to 75 points, let's say 75 points with 30 goals, you will love to take that from a guy who's your top 6 right winger, who's, on the second line right wing spot, plays on the power play, maybe you can do stuff on the penalty kill. If you really want to get back to playing almost 18 and a half minutes on average ice time, then we're going to need to see 30 goals and 75 points, which I think he can do. It's just you can't have a slow start. You have to get your defense game up a little bit more and be that 2-way forward that Rod Brind'Amour really needs, but not really changing your game as well, because we all know how fast Martin Necas is. There's no doubt that this guy's fast, and I've said it a long time. He can skate in a phone booth. Like, if you listen to my other podcast that I did, I've been on the Martin Necas train for a long time. I think he's a really good player. He's not that old either. Like, if you look at the fact that he is only 25 years old, like 2 seasons ago, people were getting ready to be done with him at 23, and then he broke out for his breakout season of 71. Yeah, last year was a little bit of a down year compared to what he had 2 seasons ago, but if he turns that around, focuses on, the fact that he's going to be in Carolina for the next 2 seasons and just get back to where he should be, I think he's going to be fine. And it's just a more of, okay, you need to step up and be the guy that the Hurricanes need to lean on with a lot of guys who did leave, and the fact that you just got to bump in your pay. So that's where his step up is compared to just Barry Kotkaniemi, where it's a bounce back from a down year. Now it's okay, you got your money, Martin Necas. Prove that you deserve that money. And that's kind of what you're looking at with him. Now, the last guy we're going to talk about is Andrei Svechnikov, and how I believe that he will have a bounce back season as well, because of the fact that he did deal with a lot of injuries, but he was pretty productive for the most part. So stick around as we'll talk about that here in a second on a Thursday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree that Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent survey. The one thing that I really love about Indeed is the fact that it makes it really easy to put in your preferences of what jobs you're looking for, what degrees you have, what certificates you have, and all that good stuff, to where it helps you match up to what job you're looking for. And with Indeed, by leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. So join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about it, Indeed, on this podcast. Once again, that is Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? Oh, well, you just need Indeed. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. The last guy we get to talk about tonight is Andrei Svechnikov, who for me, it's more so of a stepping up as in being the guy that we really think that he really can be. You look back at the 21-22 season where he played 78 games. He had 30 goals, 39 assists for 69 points, finishes a plus 19, had 5 game-winning goals and 9 power play goals, and played over 17 minutes of ice time. 2 seasons ago, did have a little bit of a drop-off, only had 55 points in 64 games. And then this past season, he only played in 59 games because he was coming back from an injury that he's had the previous season before, where he tore his ACL right after the trade deadline. Came back late, dealt with a couple more injuries. But overall, 19 goals, it's pretty down for Andrei Svechnikov, but did have 33 assists and did have 52 points in 59 games. And even then, at one point, he was a point-per-game guy while averaging just a second under 17 minutes per game. Now, this is where it's for Andre, for his step-up, for me, it's just staying healthy. If we can get him back for a full season, because the last time he played an 82-game season was his rookie year back in 18-19, where he was 18 years old, where he got 37 points. After that, 68 in 19-20. Of course, with the COVID year and stuff like that, then he had, 55 games, and then 78 back in 21-22. Then 22-23 he had 64, and then this past year he had 59. So for me, it's just a stay healthy, just play the game that you need to. And, talking with Mike Maniscalco and all of them, it's one of those things where they think he can put up 40 goals. And I think he can do it too. And for me, it's more of let's get to 30 first before we start talking about 40, because he's hit 31 time in his career, and that was back in 21-22. Other than that, he's had 24 in 23, and then 20 in the, a few in the upper teens. But if he can give us 30 goals this year and gets us to where he's getting 75, 80 points, I'll take that. Especially when you're playing on the first line with Sebastian Aho and Seth Jarvis. If he can give us 30 goals and 80 points, I'll gladly take that for a bounce-back season for Andrei Svechnikov, where you're really hoping he stays healthy. And that's kind of one of the things that you really need from him. And like I said, talking during the Martin Necas segment, even Kotkaniemi segment too, is the fact that Rod says he's going to have to lean on a lot of these guys this season, especially in a transition year where The team did take a half step back. Like I said, you lose Teravainen, you lose Nason, lose a couple guys in your blue line. And now it's okay, Svetch, you're going to be with Aho and Jarvis. That first line's really going to drive this team. If that line's going, I think the team was going too. And you got to hope that KK and Nichis play really well in that second line. And then it's is it Roslovic? Is it Nadeau? Is it Blake? Who's going to be that left winger on that second line? So it's just, if you're looking at Andrei Svechnikov, you've got to hope he has he's got to have at least 80 points this upcoming season, at least 30 goals, and being someone who can really help out on the power play, and just making sure that he's helping out Sebastian Aho and Seth Jarvis on that top line. And if he can do that, I think that he is in for a monster season for the Carolina Hurricanes. But it's just making sure that you stay healthy. Really, also don't get a lot of penalties, man. He's had 79, 71, and 58 in the last 3 years in terms of penalty minutes. He's really getting that reputation where refs aren't giving him the benefit of the doubt, and he's got a lot of retaliatory penalties too. This is another year where I think that he's got to rein in the, basically returning the shot type of, because the refs will always catch the guy who swings second. So if I'm Andrei Svechnikov and I really want to give myself an opportunity to be on the power play and get a decent amount of ice time, you got to limit the penalties. You got to stay on the ice a lot more. And that's also just staying healthy too. And I know it's hard to do that, especially in today's NHL where some guys will just get hurt because it happens. But if you're Andre, for him to step up is, it's easier said than done. And it's not really his fault because, injuries happen, but just stay healthy and also stay level-headed. Just don't take those, secondary shots and get yourself caught and go thrown in the box. So I think he can really step up for the Hurricanes this year. Like I said, if we get 30 goals and 80 points out of Andre, that's a huge step up for him, and that's really going to help out Aho and Jarvis in that first line. And then basically, if it works out for the power play too, then you're looking at another guy who can really make the power play click with him, Nichis, Aho, Jarvis, they're all together, and probably Gostisbehere on that first power play unit. That group is absolutely loaded. So I think we're potentially in a huge year for Andrei Svechnikov in terms of just stepping up to where we know he can be and just being that guy that the Hurricanes can really lean on for the upcoming season. But that will wrap up this Thursday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Let me know what you think. Do you think that all three of these guys are going to have a huge year for the Carolina Hurricanes and just Barry Kotkaniemi, Martin Nichis, and Andrei Svechnikov? I think all three of these guys could have huge years for the Canes in just their different ways of having a bounce back from a low season last year, being someone that could be that Jordan Staal 2.0. Martin Nichis in terms of just putting your money where your mouth is. Can you get us back to 70-plus points? And then Andrei Svechnikov, just staying healthy. Don't take the secondary shots to get thrown in the box. Stay healthy. Maybe we see 30 goals and 80 points from him this season. So let me know what you think. What other players do you think that really need to step up for the Hurricanes this season outside of KK, Nichis, and Andrei Svechnikov? If you want to keep up with me, anything that's going on with the Carolina Hurricanes, you can follow me at X on OneTrueZach. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. There's a link to in my bio where you can keep up with all my articles over at the Hockey Writers. Also, the link to where you can listen and watch my other podcasts, the Searchcast. You can look that up on YouTube and all their podcast platforms. For this show, you can look up this podcast on all of the platforms that you listen to. Just look up Locked On Hurricanes. And even on YouTube, you can just search for it on there as well. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you don't miss an episode. Hit the thumbs up button to let me know that you like the show as well, because it helps us get out there a lot more to other fans. And speaking of that, we are over 980 subscribers. We are so close to hit 1,000. If we hit 1,000, I'm going to do something really special for you guys. So make sure to share the podcast so that way other Caniacs become everydayers just like you. But hope everyone enjoyed this Thursday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Hope everyone enjoys their Thursday. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.